Mide, M-I-D-E, 660 Columbia Street, New Milford. Good evening, New Milford.
Good morning.
This is just one man's humble opinion. If my objective today were to simply convince the board to use common sense and basic logic in determining the fate of this application, I'd need less than 10 minutes. We've all sat here for 2 years and heard the same testimony from the same expert witnesses, so allow me to try and separate what I believe are certain facts from fiction. Foremost, the objectors, the citizens and the taxpayers of New Milford, through their presentations and cross-examinations, have shown time and again that the evidence and testimony given by the expert witnesses lack substantive detail, exclude pertinent key facts, exude a limited and poor knowledge of New Milford, and ultimately raise more questions than answers. We've seen witness upon witness skirt the issues, give misinformation and answers to questions that are both elusive and evasive, and that ultimately obstruct the fact-finding objectives of this board. Burge Tambalakian, the expert traffic witness, who by his own admission used the applicant's own data as the foundation for his findings, would have you believe that maybe he did 3 traffic counts at the high school adjacent to the proposed location of this application. Or maybe he didn't. This board cannot accept maybes as fact, nor can you accept his testimony regarding traffic concerns, or lack thereof, for our high school students who, unlike elementary school children that he would express greater concern for, may or may not drive, use communication devices to chat and text, drink alcohol, do drugs, sometimes all of the above simultaneously, and by law, still require adult supervision. That is a fact. Margita Batistic, our engineering expert, would have you believe that the additional flooding caused by raising and developing the applicant property would be immeasurable. Immeasurable is her determination, but that does not draw a definitive conclusion. By definition, immeasurable does not mean insignificant. It's immeasurable from here to the end of the universe, but hardly insignificant. And while she testified that immeasurable to her was less than a 16th of an inch, that doesn't translate to the actual increase in water pressure and water levels to the immediate surrounding areas when flooding does occur, a low-lying area with an already strained drainage system. Dr. Kinsey, the co-expert, would have you decide and select one of 4 variable options that he admits were deduced by his own methodology to meet our COA requirements, based on calculations that may or not eventually meet those requirements after all. Those are not facts. Mr. Del Vecchio, he would have you believe that his client's concerned about our COA requirements and affordable housing, but he's shown that his client has disregard for our existing taxpayers, our students, our children, our open space, our heritage trees, nor the decision this board may ultimately reach. And can anyone accurately divulge the correct square footage of the existing Shoprite? The planning experts have presented conflicting testimony on this matter, which ultimately skews the comparative evidence presented by the applicant. In September of 2013, I made a presentation to this board that showed in detail that the current 1980 flood maps are not accurate, documents that the applicant entered into evidence on their own behalf. I took you on a virtual boat tour of the river adjacent to the property in question and showed you firsthand that sandbars, erosion and deterioration, downed trees, mud, garbage and silt, all due to apathetic negligence, have contributed to obstructing and ultimately changing the path of the river. Yet, Mr. Del Vecchio would have you believe that my entire presentation was irrelevant, as his objection clearly stated, if you recall. Mr. Del Vecchio would have you believe that the DEP's regulation on land use that says structures that are improperly built in flood hazard areas can threaten the health, safety, and welfare of those who use them, as I detailed in my presentation, is irrelevant. Regarding climate change, I showed you that the DEP further states water levels have risen in the past century due to an increase in average temperature. And in New Jersey, long-term data document a significant increase in precipitation and a significant rise in sea level. And of course, Mr. Delvecchio would have you believe that is irrelevant too. I showed you homes in New Milford that, due to excessive flooding, were purchased and demolished by the town at the taxpayer's expense. And just downstream from the applicant property, yet Mr. Delvecchio apparently objects to its relevance. Until this board can review and refer to the anticipated new and revised flood maps that will more accurately show the current state of the river, you cannot make a factual determination as to its relevance in relation to this development, and you therefore must vote no to this application now. And this is not a simple application. This requires rezoning an open space residential property 2 and 4 commercial use that, according to the existing 34-year-old flood maps, the applicant's own evidence, is adjacent to a flood zone in a flood-prone area, a lagoon if you will, in order to replace a Shoprite that is already applied for and received permits to renovate at an existing, more suitable location in New Milford. You would have to ask yourself if it's in the best interest of the town and its residents to endure the inevitable traffic, tax burden, street renovations, pollution, and the immeasurable additional flooding this development will cause if you take the witness's word as fact. However, you simply cannot. The integrity of these witnesses' testimony is absolutely questionable, specifically regarding whether they were thorough in their determinations or not. And we have seen that they have not. The burden of proof is on the applicant to show this board that without any question, the facts and evidence support the standards required for a project of this magnitude, and they have not met that burden. Mr. Delvecchio and Mr. Eisdorfer have blown a lot of smoke through a lot of mirrors, but have done little to convince anyone that this development will not be costly to taxpayers, have a negative impact on the community, nor benefit anyone other than his client and the 24 affordable housing unit families that they've allocated what amounts to less than the recommended satisfactory percentage of a 13-acre property, as per Mr. Greigel's expert testimony before this board. We have an existing Shoprite. We have existing persistent flooding. We have existing traffic problems, and we do not have any more open space to meet future code requirements. Don't let this applicant threaten our existence. We love New Milford, and we are proud to live here. They do not and are not. Please vote no to this application unanimously and send a strong message to this applicant. I'll leave you with this. If the facts are gray, you must vote nay.